This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
I sure hope they invested in crypto since they work at the FTX arena, because life right now in crypto is really, really good with Bitcoin going over 45,000. That at least will get you in a good mood. Being in the Heat locker room, not so much. Ira Winderman, good morning, sir. Are you dishing out the boxing gloves?
You know, it's interesting. I had so hoped like before.
Is it a trigon? Is it a ring? What's going on? Where are they fighting?
You know what? I almost wish that this would have happened like before our hour-long show this week, because it gave us so much fodder. But you know what? It just shows you how much losing can impact a team. Let's face it, no matter what was said or wasn't said, if that came during a winning streak or when they were going well, it would have been blown off. No one would care if Udonis Haslem is interjecting himself into a huddle, if Eric Spoelstra has heated words, if something like that happens. So I think at worst, it shows they care, which is not a bad thing.
Bumpgate happened at 9 and 8.
Yes. And then look what happened after Bumpgate. They went on, they got to the NBA Finals, they found themselves 2 championships in the ensuing 2 seasons. Look, tonight's the moment. We all thought that Wednesday was the moment. We all thought, okay, they lost to Philadelphia on Monday without Embiid and Harden. They're getting the shorthanded Warriors. They're not going to let it happen again. They let it happen again. They still have a chance to turn a potentially awful week into a respectable week. If you get tonight against the Knicks and you get Saturday night against Kyrie, Durant, and the Nets, we're going to be sitting here on Sunday and Monday when I come back in the Acura Pembroke Pines report, and we're going to be talking about, hey, good weekend for the Heat. They got themselves right. They showed resilience. Because Big O, pretty soon we're getting to the point where everything's going to be 4 out of 7 when you get to the playoffs. So it's not just the one-game samples. It's the can you make things right? Can you recover? Can you sustain? That's what makes these two important. And I almost think by holding out Victor Oladipo tonight, Eric Spoelstra sort of realizes, look, this is just the Knicks, no offense. The Nets game is when I want all hands on deck. That's when I want to make sure that everyone can be out there. That's going to be a statement game because, that also could be a preview of the first round of the playoffs.
So now I can give you that if Jimmy Butler manned up and truly apologized to Spo and to UD, if he showed that he was really sorry about what he did, then I agree with you. They can move on because usually men are pretty good about that. You can move on but I think that apology has to take place. There has to be a mea culpa by Jimmy Butler. There has to be that moment where he addresses the fact that he was wrong on every level. If he doesn't do that, this will fester. This will be a problem for the Heat. And I know the Heat are in a tough position because they're trapped with that contract. And it's not like he's going to be movable, because if Miami can't fix him, nobody else is going to take him on.
Orlando, I would be shocked if there's an apology. I would be shocked if there's a public show of contrition. For 10 years, this has been the Jimmy Butler story. Now, if you have a problem with the contract, and you were one of the first who said, whoa, 38 years old and $40 million plus, I have a concern, that's fine. This is who Jimmy Butler is. This isn't 1 season or 2 seasons or 3 seasons in. This isn't 1 team or 2 teams or 3 teams in. At a certain point of your career, and honestly, at a certain point of your personhood, you are who you are. So the Heat knew that they added a son of a bitch, that they gave a son of a bitch a 5-year contract extension into his late 30s. So whether there's this incremental moment of contrition like you're seeking, it doesn't change who Jimmy Butler is.
That's
Jimmy
fine.
Butler has to have the right coach, has to have the right teammates, has to have the right management, Pat Riley, that sort of ownership circle, in order to keep him in line. But if you think Jimmy Butler's going to change his spots right now at 32, 33 years old and this deep into his career, he won't, because he won't be the same Jimmy Butler. If you want an MFer out there on the court, you're going to get an MFer on the bench and an MFer in the locker room.
I disagree with that. I think then that will change the dynamics of the locker room, and that will change the dynamics in the relationship of Jimmy and the coach from here on out. That's going to be a problem. If when you're wrong, you have to apologize, Ira. You have to. What he did was unacceptable. I've
It,
never seen Spo act like that
in a
ever.
rational with a rational person, I would agree with you. But you bring
Wow.
in the entire package. You bring in everything about a person. And with Jimmy Butler, you're bringing in the differences with Fred Hoiberg when he was suspended, when him and Dwayne spoke out against Rondo and Hoiberg. You're bringing in the Jimmy Butler who showed up at the Rachel Nichols practice there in Minnesota and made a whole scene about it and then did a half-hour TV special seemingly on it. You're
Yeah.
on the Jimmy Butler, who after having a good playoff run in Philadelphia, still forced his way out because he wanted to go to the Miami Heat. That's who he is. Now, you can say Pat Riley maybe never should have done his dance with the devil. Maybe never should have gotten in bed with trouble like that. But you know what? Oh, it's sort of like the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson. That winning or the desire to win trumps all. Hell, Stephen Ross was doing that dance. And even with Tyreek Hill, you certainly could look into certain things and going, well, it's not like it's all pristine right there. You know what you're getting. You accept what you're getting because you believe it will help you win more than you will lose. And I got to say the other part of this, and I know this isn't popular. The incident happened against Udonis Haslem. It didn't happen against a main rotation player. We will never get to the point Orlando Alzugaray will saying is Jimmy going to pass the ball to Udonis? Well,
no.
Udonis said screen for Jimmy. Udonis doesn't play.
Well, notice I didn't talk Udonis. I told you Spo. I mentioned to you
Eric Spoelstra is a big boy. This happens behind the scenes all the time. I asked Eric Spoelstra at one point when things were going perfect, and I asked him, how nice is it not to have any a-holes in your locker room? And he said to me, this wasn't this year, and he said to me, we got a-holes. They all got a-holes. You just deal with that. So if you're asking me, is Eric Spoelstra in this job because he believes that he has 15 men connected on his string and they all have the same views and never fight? Oh, BS. It gets heated all the time, Orlando. This is a league where you play 82 regular season games. That's a lot of emotion and a lot of emotional swings. Now, if you're asking me what do I think the most important thing about this is, I think that they just move past it, that we don't see it again, that we don't see Spoelstra versus Butler tonight against New York or tomorrow against Brooklyn. If it happens again and you bring it up to me in one of our Acura Pembroke Pines reports and say, see, I told you this in late March would be a problem.
Hey, Shaq versus Riley ended up with Shaq being, shipped out eventually.
Oh, absolutely. That happened with LeBron, and LeBron wouldn't even take Pat Riley's meeting in Vegas, and he had enough, and that relationship fractured also. We've always seen relationships fractured, but this right now is a one-off. It festered much more. Remember, Shaq didn't want Stan Van Gundy as coach. Remember that he thought he was the master of panic. Yeah. And then he brought So there were incidents with Shaq. There were incidents with LeBron starting with Bumpgate. So this is, as far as we know, number one. There have been minor things, being late for practices and missing shoot-arounds. Don't kid yourself. Here's the main difference, and I think, it's important to educate you, your listeners out there, people listening to the Acura Pembroke Pines report. Eric Spoelstra is not Pat Riley. He has let players, I don't want to say bend the rules, but he's more forgiving. He is of the thought, we have a veteran roster now. We have Kyle Lowry, we have PJ Tucker, we have Jimmy Butler, we have Markieff Morris, we have older players. They know what to do. I'm not going to be as rigid. What Eric Spoelstra has allowed would have led to thousands of dollars of fines and suspensions by Pat Riley. But you know what? Eric Spoelstra is a modern day coach. He coaches them differently. If Pat Riley was coaching the other day, hands would have been thrown. It would not have stopped there. That's who Pat Riley is. Pat Riley is the street fighter from the hardscrabble upbringing in Schenectady. That's not who Eric Spoelstra is. Eric Spoelstra is a product of the NBA. He saw his father as an NBA executive. He grew through Pat Riley and Stan Van Gundy. And so for all these people in Heat culture thinking it's a steady line for these last 26 years, it's not. There was the Pat Riley way and there's the Eric Spoelstra way. And Pat Riley in the old days would look at what Eric Spoelstra is doing now and going, this isn't how we do it. Instead, Pat Riley goes, maybe I wouldn't have had that problem with Shaq. Maybe I wouldn't have had that problem with others if I did this. It's completely different right now. So I think Eric is fine with it. Eric puts up with a lot because he understands today's modern coaches have to put up with a lot.
So do we know of a fine? Because obviously there's no suspension. And the part B of that is, are they screwing up if they don't fine or suspend him?
I have spoken to parties from both ends of this. Inside the Heat, close to Jimmy Butler, no suspension, no fine, no nothing. Now, has there been a talking to? Has there been a point made? The Heat held a team meeting as they were scheduled yesterday at FTX Arena, ostensibly to prepare for the Knicks game today. There was no shoot around this morning, and then you move on there. And I think that's what you do because you're managing these kind of players. I got to tell you, someone like Kyle Lowry has been given unbelievable latitude this season to be who he wants. I mean, no offense, but when you look at Kyle Lowry's, how do I phrase this? Body. You know, I'm not so sure that Pat Riley wouldn't have sent him downstairs like he did with Antoine Walker at one point and said, no, that's not good enough. The Heat's conditioning test. Remember when you were on the beat, we'd all talk about, did people make their time? What do you mean James Posey's not practicing? What do you mean Dion Waiters didn't do it? And since then, they've sort of moved off of that. I'm not sure if Kyle Lowry's in that much of better shape than Dion Waiters was at some points.
I agree.
But
I agree.
Kyle Lowry.
But again, Kyle Lowry is a different.
Yes, he's a champion. He's an all-star.
He's a professional.
Yes,
exactly. Even with that weight, he's a professional.
And I think, what a lot of people have lost in all this stuff is trying to put the Pat Riley mold on the 2021-22 Miami Heat. It's not. Times have changed. Greg Popovich isn't the same coach he once was. We've seen a softening of the pop. Those are the guys who survive. The my way or the highway guys, they're gone.
Yeah. All right.
And as a matter of fact, I'll give you one more. If an Eric Spoelstra type of coach was managing Tua Tagovailoa last season with the Dolphins and didn't put his ego in front of the whole damn thing, we wouldn't have had all that drama also. And I think that's where Brian Flores got himself in a little bit of a trouble also, is that he didn't realize it's different now. And it's not just about your harsh opinions, your my way or the highway. So I would really view Eric Spoelstra through a different prism. And Big O, when you do that, then you can view this incident through a different prism.
All right. Kyle Guy, the Kyle Guy run is over. And they what was the name of the dude they just signed?
Michael Mulder, a hell of a three-point shooter.
Yeah. I forgot. Yeah. So I was thinking about that. Is Scully also coming?
Yes, and I knew you would come up with that, and you're going to throw me in there. So I'll leave that to David Duchovny when you have him on next hour as one of your guests. Look, I was up early at FTX Arena. They weren't open yet, trying to trade in my Kyle Guy jersey. I'll have to wait a little longer on that. Look, he filled a nice role. They had that COVID. They were desperate. They were in Houston. They needed bodies.
It was a mashup. They needed him. It was a mashup.
They needed anyone, and he fulfilled it. But Michael Mulder is an NBA-level three-point shooter. In January 2020, the Heat had a decision to make. They either could have given Michael Mulder a two-way contract or Gabe Vincent. They went for Gabe Vincent because they felt he did a little more off the dribble, but they never lost their interest in Michael Mulder. So this is what they did. He is not eligible for the playoffs. Players on two-way contracts are not playoff eligible. Now, that doesn't mean between now and the final day of the season on April 10th, they can't maneuver the roster, give him Haywood Highsmith's roster spot. Maybe UD steps aside for the playoffs. I don't think that's going to happen. But he is under a 2-year deal, so he will go to Summer League. He will be in the summer program. And here's what's interesting, because I always have to bring this back to an Orlando Alzugaray angle. It's another three-point specialist they're bringing in. So for my friend, I think he goes by the name of the Big O, who wants nothing more than to ship Duncan Robinson out of town, the more you load up with three-point shooting elsewhere, the more it's easier to maybe make a kind of move that placates the man who's sitting right now at Acura Pembroke Pines.
The truth is out there. I got you.
Orlando orchestrated all of this without Scully's help.
There you go. By the way, she looks really good. If you've seen her lately, she actually looks good, and wouldn't be bad to bring her by. All right, so Oladipo, what's the latest with the broken down one?
This is really fascinating. Now he's back on the injured list. Now they're saying it's knee injury maintenance. You know what, Big O? You and I, and then Clay Ferraro in our weekly.
Can we call him Model T?
Well,
That's
exactly. And I was going to say, and Clay, when we speak on a midweek Slomin's home security inside the paint show, it was all about Oladipo and the promise. But, this is something you're deeply familiar with. Alonzo Mourning, 2020-21 season, sits out at the start with a kidney illness. About 2-3 weeks left in the season, says, I'm back. Well, that was a season when Brian Grant was playing great. When Anthony Mason was an all-star starter. Yeah. When they had everything rolling, they brought Zoe back. The chemistry went to crap. Not Zoe's fault, but just a different way of playing. They were swept out of the playoffs in the first round by Charlotte.
Yeah.
I think Erik Spoelstra is approaching a line in the sand moment with both Victor Oladipo and Markieff Morris when he doesn't want to lose the magic he had. And PJ Tucker had an interesting point, and I'm about to post a story on sunsentinel.com about this. You had guys who made this season for the Heat. Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, Max Strus, losing minutes now to these other guys. And I think even some of the veterans are like, whoa, these guys got us here. Let's not forget about them. The Heat, I think right now, they're at a crossroads right now. I think Erik Spoelstra is going to have to make a decision soon enough. So, I got
one more thing to add to you. Don't add more old legs to the mix. Keep the young legs in the mix.
Right. Well, some are young legs and some aren't, but I'm still going to have some.
By adding Oladipo and adding Markieff, you're adding more old legs or broken down legs.
Yeah, broken legs maybe for Oladipo. Markieff is 33. That's a little bit different. So I agree with you. I really think if there's not a breakout game by Vic or Markieff by the time the Heat go on the road, starting next Wednesday with their games at Boston, at Chicago, or Toronto, that Erik Spoelstra might have to tighten things, go back to what got them here and said, hey, guys, you made valiant comebacks. And God bless you, Vic, from the quadriceps surgery last May. And God bless you, Markieff, from the 58 games missed with the whiplash after the Nikola Jokic incident. But it's go time now. Right now, the Heat have two different go times. Are they going with Vic and Markieff, or are they going with what got them here? I think it's a real interesting crossroads for Erik Spoelstra. So he'd much rather take time focusing on that than some silly antics on the bench during a one-off.
I just hope you didn't lose the magic by flipping.
And that's a really good. And we're going to chronicle that 3 times a week here on the Big O show, because we are at that moment. We are at a little teetering point. This is another Erik Spoelstra moment at hand. I totally agree, Big O.
You flipped the switch off of the young guys. Now you're going to ask them to turn it right back on again.
And can they? Right.
And can they?
0 for 10 on threes the last 2 games. Has there been a little confidence lost there?
Yeah, exactly. Or it's not just confidence. It's a groove. You know, it's a routine.
And a rhythm and a cohesion. These 9 guys interlocked together, and now you have these other 2 guys in there, and all of a sudden the recipe, you're putting too much of ingredient A when ingredient B was just fine.
Yeah, no, that's kind of screwed up, unfortunately. All right, Knicks tonight, 8:00. We'll see what happens. The octagon will be inside the arena somewhere, so we'll see, just in case. Any truth that Dana White is going to this game tonight?
You know what? If he has a chance to see UD throw hands, maybe. So maybe we'll see. UD restrained himself, so I give him that. And again, I was asked, who would you take in a fight of UD against Butler? And I said this.
I'm taking old man strength every time.
No, in a 1-round fight or something like a UFC fight, I would take Jimmy, because his rage in the moment, I think he can go for the quick knockout. I think he would go ballistic. I think UD, with his smarts over rounds, would win on most scorecards. So again, are we talking 3 rounds or are we talking 10 rounds?
I'm going with Miami all the way, bro. I'm going with Miami all
I don't know. Jimmy could be cray-cray at times. Jimmy could be cray-cray, and I wonder about that also.
UD is cray-cray.
Yeah, but Jimmy has a little bit more of that Kimbo slice in him, so I don't know. I might go the other way.
I don't know. I've been seeing UD since he was inside of Miami High Gym. So I've followed that man's career for a long, long time. I've seen him in all levels. I don't know, man. I would not want to be facing UD at any point. That's for damn sure. All right. Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat. What are you working on, the Sun Sentinel, so folks can subscribe and check you out?
2 stories. One, we spoke about adding Michael Mulder, what that means, and the roster move for the long term. And the story I'm about to post now is, when do you pull the plug on Oladipo and Morris? And have you already lost the magic that got you to the top of the Eastern Conference.
There you go. There you go. All right, Ira. Thank you as always, my friend. We'll catch up next week.
Hopefully better times then, or more fights to talk about. Round 2, round 3. We'll see. Thanks, Big O.
You got it. Let's go. Drop the gloves. That's Ira Winderman, our Miami Heat and NBA report.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.